Hello.
Oh,
I've missed you. You've been away.
I have I? We're coming from the past into the future, so I guess I have been away.
Yeah, you have been away. I mean, we don't need to discuss it because we're not talking about where you've been or top secret things that you've been doing. But you know, like it's starting a busy month. I mean, this is
It
April
is.
1st. So this is
April Fools. Oh yeah, we are actually here.
yeah, this is going to be a really crazy month, and I actually had just reminded myself here that I might potentially want to show the April calendar that
Oh
we
yes.
that we had just finished playing with because that would be important. There's a lot going on in April. There's really exciting stuff going on in April, but I don't know how we're going to survive April.
This is true.
It's going to be really fun and
We shall prevail. We shall survive.
it's going well, we're going to have a content gathering marathon in
Oh
the
yeah.
first part of April. So there's going to be lots of really like cool, exciting things to talk about. Speaking of cool, exciting things to talk about, like, should we start with some announcements?
Yes.
Okay. Like, we can't wait another minute. Like, we got to do these announcements. Clearly. Clearly, well, let me start. Is that coming through okay? Um,
Yes.
okay, let me start here with our calendar. This one's got a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of red. It's
Yeah,
a lot of red.
a lot of stuff going on. Half of me feels like, wow, since I do red when we're traveling, like it looks real serious. Like, um, yeah, right. I mean, it's serious with fun though. Like, so I mean, here we are, man. It's April 1st right now. You're seeing this video at 2 p.m. It's recorded. I'm sorry. We love you. We love you live, but we're on the road.
Yeah.
We're doing
April Fools. It's actually March.
we're doing I mean, they don't have to know that. But yeah, so you've seen this April 1st, and the reason all this stuff is red is because Stephanie and I are on an adventure. We're not currently, obviously, as you can see, as the background, but we, as this airs, are currently running around in traveling to Lincoln, Nebraska, to the
I will be
IQM.
ready to board a plane very soon, and you will be on the road.
Yep. So we're meeting up in Lincoln, Nebraska. We're doing some background things with AQSG, but there is room in there for fun things as well. We're going to get to see some like behind the scenes stuff at the IQM. I don't know yet about any recording possibilities. Obviously, if we're allowed to, we will. Um,
Hmm.
but we're also going to see exhibits there. There's a talk about a trip to their library, right? We're talking about that.
Yes, yes. I still don't know a whole lot, but I am hitching a ride with a dear friend of ours to the IQM library, and I guess it's University of Nebraska slash IQM
There we
archives.
go. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that'll be fun, and there
Mhm.
may or may not be pictures I can share, but I'm gonna take them
I mean,
anyway.
I was gonna say most libraries don't mind if you take photos, just generic photos inside. Who
Hmm.
knows what happens? But anyways, after that, we're gonna be leaving Lincoln, Nebraska area on Sunday the 6th, and we're gonna head north because only 3 hours away is Iowa and the Iowa Quilt Museum. And we're gonna be up there. We're gonna spend a night in Iowa from an Airbnb, and we've decided, assuming everything goes well, we're gonna do a live stream there and talk to you about all the things that we're doing and maybe, showing photos and things that night. We're going to try to stick with our 7 p.m. Eastern schedule, which means for us that night it will actually be 6 p.m. for us. So we'll have to remember that. But it's 7 p.m. because all of our times on here are in Eastern. So we're going to try to do that because we won't be able to do our live stream on Tuesday because following Iowa, we're heading to stay with a friend in Minneapolis, Minnesota for a couple of nights. And then we all find our way home. Steph again will be boarding a plane and she'll get back
Yep.
to life pretty quickly, whereas I am driving back and we'll be stopping to do some antiquing in Indiana. So hopefully I'll have some photos of really cool stuff from there. Then I come back on the Friday. We have our lecture with Pam Weeks at 6 p.m. on
Yep.
the Saturday the 12th, which I've got a slide for that coming up.
Yep.
Um,
As of the recording of this and the time you're going to see it when it's released, you still have time to sign up.
mhm. So we've got that going on, and obviously that link will be in the description box for you to sign up for that lecture. Also, we're going to give the first assignment for Pam's book on the 15th, and we'll start discussing it here on the 22nd. I've got a slide here for the book and the and her how to get that from her. Um, and then Stephanie runs away again at the end of the month. I have a little trip here that will be very interesting for people to hear about. But Stephanie runs away back to Temecula like she did last year. And we will do another recorded video launch, which will actually be a part two to this video on the 29th. I'm exhausted even just like saying.
Yeah, yes, yes. Just the description of our month is exhausting, but
Mhm. But it's full of so many amazing things. So you will notice,
Mhm.
guys, that there's no stitch and glitch this month. There's just too much going on.
Yeah, we just can't
Stephanie and
swing
I
it.
both have some things going on and like these Saturdays, so like we just couldn't fit it in. So unless I get some like wild hair and just decide to like pop up and be like, hi, like we're just this month's just too crazy. So let me move on here. I actually think that I had not hit the whole window. To showing you. I'm just gonna have to do my whole screen here, I think. To showing you this. I'm sure you may have already seen this before, but the fact that Steph and I are hosting our very first like legitimate private lecture is a big deal. So Pam Weeks from New England Quilt Museum has wonderfully decided to be our first guinea pig, um, for our first lecture. And we're doing again April 12th, 6 p.m., $23. We're going to have an author interview with her as well after we read her book on June 3rd. Everybody loves those. And then, of course, here's her book here, Portable Patchwork. This lecture is an intro to that. And if you want to join us for the book club portion of that, you can get the book direct from her and you can get it autographed, $35 with shipping included. You can email her at pamela.weeks@gmail.com. Am I done with announcements?
I
I
think
think
so.
so. Okay, I think so.
Those are the important ones. Those are the important ones.
Okay, I think so. Let me just get my so is that showing up for you again?
I'm still seeing Pam's lecture
I didn't share.
information.
I didn't share the whole screen. Hi, it's me again. If you only knew about the technical difficulties we had before we got on camera together. Um, mm,
At least I managed to have my audio on.
that's true. I was just thinking like, do I need to share sound? But I don't think anything I have has sound. Is that showing up?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can see Chester County History Center. It has been a hot minute since we were there.
Yeah, it really was. So this was, and this is just their general website. Again, this will be in the description below for you. This is when we had gone on that trip where we met up with our friend Ann Hermes, and this is the trip where we went to the Mennonite Life Museum too, right? Was this part of that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, which we'd already looked at stuff from that museum, but when we were thinking about things that we needed to do in the recorded material that we had, I told you we've had a backlog. So we're like, this is a good time to do this one because this one will end up being a two-parter. There's an actual quilt exhibit. And then we told you guys the story months ago about finding the open storage area. Open storage? Wait, is that what it's called? Visible storage?
Visible storage. Yeah. The visible
Yeah.
storage drawer. Yeah.
Yeah, we found that room and it was myself and Steph and Ann Hermes and we were the last people in the building and we're opening these drawers of things and just
Mhm.
like gasping and they probably thought we were I don't know brawling or something up in that
Well, no,
room.
and then like a literally a week after we made that trip, I went to a quilt study and heard the exact same experience from three other people who had gone. They were like, "Oh." So I'm guessing that's the gasps of amazement and delight or something that the History Center is used to. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I have to say like I mean the quilt exhibit about signature quilts is lovely. But the storage was like
Yeah.
just as exciting, um, if not more so, because of particular areas of things that I'm not often seeing, at least,
Hmm.
in a lot of collection size. Like if you see stuff there were sewing tools and things, and usually might see one or two. We were seeing whole drawers
Hmm.
full of multiple examples of the same type of thing. It was amazing. It was so amazing.
Yeah.
The
So
only thing that,
you also will be able to have your eyes on those things at the
yes,
end of the month. Yeah.
the only thing that was a bummer is that since they're drawers and they've got glass or like plexiglass covering, it can make viewing and or photography a little difficult. But we did get some decent photos and stuff like that. So, but yes, here's their website. It was a great facility. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Very
we
nice
really,
museum.
yeah, very nice. We really enjoyed that facility a lot. I was bummed I didn't get a nice picture of the outside of the building. It is a very just um a nice building. I highly recommend going there. Parking was very easy. It's in this nice kind of downtown kind of
Yeah.
um,
Like, yeah.
downtown meets residential area.
Hmm. But
Very
all
nice.
very charming, nice little area.
Highly recommend going there. So one thing that's very interesting about this exhibit is the stands next to the quilts were like full 8 by 11 typed sheets of paper, not just the little tiny tags you tend to see. And a lot of them, if you remember stuff, had QR codes with
Hmm.
them
Yeah,
where
and
you
you could
can scan
access
and get
the
more info.
yeah, it was like the curatorial record is what you were accessing with those
Hmm.
QR codes. Yeah, and there was a lot of information for some of the quilts.
It was very interesting. So we've got here, what is a Chester County quilt? Steph, you take this one away. I need a drink.
You are gonna have to zoom in a lot because I
Sure,
cannot see
sure,
that.
sure thing. Is this good? You want more?
Um, Maybe a tiny bit more. Yeah, that's probably good. Okay.
Okay.
So, what is a Chester County quilt? Along with 300 quilts in the CCHC Museum, there are more than 700 community-owned quilts presumed to have a Chester County origin. Considered together, quilts made here followed the style trends of the era in which they were made. Quilts from the mid 1800s tend to be fairly large, 80 inches to more than 100 inches in at least one direction, relatively thin with either cotton or wool batting, and inclusive of many variations of turkey red fabric if red prints are used. In the documentation and in the museum collection, there are many combinations of red and green prints with white or muslin, blue and brown prints, and bright yellow with reds or greens. And I think all of those we have seen are like really common to that area of Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
So they also have a word about condition. The condition of the museum's quilts suggest that many had limited use. A few were used extensively and others seemingly not at all. However, it's important to note that managing limited museum resources may be a greater influence than family use. In the 1980s, several dozen quilts were deaccessioned from the museum collection, presumably because of poor condition through prior use. Also, community members tend not to offer the museum family heirlooms that are in poor condition. These choices tend to skew our perception of how a quilt or any artifact represents reality.
Mm. I really like all that background context. I feel like you
Yeah.
often aren't getting so much of that in some other exhibits. This was a really, really pretty exhibition, I
Hmm.
have to say.
Yeah, and this one's a crib quilt, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were not bored. This fabric is just fantastic. Let's see here. We got, yes. So we've got 1834 to 1867. That is very precise. Cotton, 41 inches by 40.25. Gift of Francis D. and Deborah H. Brinton. Let's see. Anti-slavery sentiments are inscribed on this crib-size quilt connected to the Herrick Sewing Circle of Bart Township, Lancaster County. This was formerly part of the Sadsbury Township, Chester County. Let's see. Quotations here. The plantations of the South are the graveyards of the mind. Oh,
Hmm.
why? That is, whew.
Yeah.
Give me liberty that boon Give me liberty that boon of priceless value, being the only authority. Be true to your highest thoughts. I don't got much there, my thoughts. Um, a, something oppression's crushing hand, and in our thoughts, their anguish keep who t tears are guilty, tears our guilty land. I'm not going to read all of these just because some of them are difficult, given that they're not quite sure. See all these question marks. But these are all inscriptions on the quilt. I'm sure I probably got like, oh, did I not? Did I not get more close-ups? That stinks.
Yeah, this is bringing back memories now of that trip.
Hmm.
And I don't remember. I know I got a picture of this quilt, but I don't know that I got a very good close up.
Hmm.
Um, I do
One thing
remember that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, they had stanchions in front of the quilt, so you couldn't get very
Yes.
close.
You
Yeah,
could
I
sort of
do.
do some leaning.
Yeah. That part was a bit of a bummer. Because yeah, it meant you couldn't necessarily get very close to see certain things. 'Cause I'm just trying to see like where.
Well, I mean, these quilts all had inscriptions and signatures, and it's difficult.
Hmm.
You like almost sometimes have to get your face really close to a quilt or take a picture and enlarge it, and you have to kind of get close to it. And I get their point. Like they don't want people with their sticky fingers touching quilts.
Hmm.
It's a double-edged sword for sure.
And then here we get to quilt codes in the Underground Railroad, which is always a topic of conversation. This one's yours, love.
All right. I've done many rants about this. So, were there quilt code quilts in the Underground Railroad? I will tell you the quick answer is no, there were not. Um, so, no quilts in the CCHC Museum collection or the documentation project have a provenance of being used as signals for freedom seekers who came north on the Underground Railroad, despite the anti-slavery activity in this area. A myth was created more than 20 years ago by a book suggesting that quilt patterns revealed if it was safe to travel or not. Some of these quilt patterns have been identified by historians as first appearing after the Civil War. Additionally, the majority of freedom seekers who came through Philadelphia used boats or other public transportation. There is sad irony in the claims of alleged quilt codes. Quilt making in the 1800s became more affordable because of the mechanization of textile manufacture. However, there was a human toll. Child labor and long work days in northern U.S. factories and other countries, or was that other counties? No, other countries,
Countries.
paralleled the hardship of enslaved field laborers from the U.S. South who produced most of the cotton. We can't change the past. We can appreciate the work of the final product and acknowledge that many hands that let acknowledge the many hands that led to its completion. And I really, I'm assuming maybe the curator or somebody on the staff, wrote this. And I think this is a really sort of lovely explanation, in short. And I think that's one of the things that I've often talked about in terms of like this wanting to have this quilt code thing be real. People stick to that so much that they fail to look at the things we can document, the things that have provenance, the history that we do know happened. And instead of, this romantic notion of, quilts being I mean, quilts are documents, but they are not always guideposts. So,
I guess one little final note about that is just when people are talking about the the evidence we have at this point in time. This is the evidence we have at this point in time. Maybe someday that evidence changes.
Yeah.
But sometimes the some of the pushback we get when we're trying to gently correct people that might be perpetuating something like this is that we're going based
Yeah.
off of what we have now, and sometimes things change.
And I
So,
think I think what evidence there is are sort of the codes that are woven into quilts after the Civil War in
hmm.
terms of, I mean, and I know we don't want to go off on a whole discourse on
Yep.
this, but at this time, but yeah, I mean, I do think that there are family quilts post-Civil War that have a coded history included in them, and I think that is
Hmm.
important. That's something that I think hasn't been explored as much because people want to cling to this romantic notion of something else. So that's all I'll say.
Mo yeah. Moving on.
Moving on.
So you can see like um this this way of displaying three different quilts that are very similar
Hmm.
in their pattern, you know, and their construction and things like that is really cool. But you can
Yeah.
see kind of how far the stanchion comes out, which you know,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to criticize anyone, but I will say that like that is a bit of a bummer when you're dealing with signature things that are so small that it's a hindrance if you can't get close.
Yeah.
So just that's just kind of a note there for if you're wondering why often we have really close pictures of things, and in this particular situation, we have pictures that aren't quite as close. So let me see what I've got here. So this is the bottom. So we're dealing with the bottom quilt right here, this one here. And actually, I wonder, never mind, I'll read the thing. So I'm sitting here going, I wonder if that was originally kind of a tan brown, but so we've got quilt 1843 cotton. Well, this is so precise. 96 and a quarter by 96. Gift of Anne Rose Bunting. What is that? Like cross?
Kraus, probably.
Place names. East Calm, East Goshen. Goshen. Is that Goshen? No.
Goshen. Yeah. Goshen. Goshen.
Really? Oh, I thought it
Mhm.
didn't have an A in it. London Grove, Brandywine, Newtown, Bethel, and lots more.
Yeah.
Family names, Davis, Williamson, Sharpless. Oh, it's an unfortunate name. Way, Baldwin, Leadham, Hickman, Darlington, Henderson, Beck, Baldwin, Coates, Green, Osborne, White. That's a lot. And then here's what we're talking about with the QR codes and the catalog record. It's a great way of being able to put more information on something without having to like type out this
Right.
whole big thing. And
Yeah.
you had actually looked a couple, I remember, I don't think I was getting any, I was like not getting signal or something. I don't
Mhm.
remember, but you
Yeah,
had
I
looked up
did.
a couple, right, to see
Yeah,
what
I
they were.
did. Yeah, exactly. I looked up a couple of them, and yeah, I mean, it's just like any old QR code, but it was tagging right into their curatorial system.
Hmm.
Um, and then, and some of them really did. They just had a short bit of information on the quilt, and others had, they had like some pretty extensive information. So
Hmm.
I think that's really cool. If museums have systems like that that they can provide a public QR code to. I know some, maybe don't have the same types of software, but this one
Yeah.
happened to be very cool.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. My phone just like keeps like going off and I forgot to turn it off. Um, don't want to be that person. Okay, good. I was able to kind of lean in and get this was so long ago. Okay, so here I was like, I wonder if that stuff was originally tan, but that goes to show you what being far away and being close does to your eyes.
Hmm.
Yes, it was obviously originally that color because it's a
Yeah,
print.
this is like it's like a double tan or a double brown. It's like a
And
brown
it's
on tan.
well, and it's funny because in that general synopsis you started with, and it was talking about different turkey reds. I mean, just right
Hmm.
here alone, we've got four different prints. I mean,
Yeah.
I think turkey red prints are some of my favorite, because of those of the like the secondary colors that they put in
Hmm.
and the way they kind of like this print's really cool with these like they look like kind of like moons.
Hmm.
Um this print here has obviously had it looks like it's got like some color that has dropped. Um Actually I think I have some of this fabric up here. But yeah, we were actually able I know I was purposely going after some of these names that were easier to some are easier obviously to see than others. Some of the way that this is bled almost kind of makes me wonder if some of it got wet at some point.
Yeah.
Mm. Let's see. This one covers the top and the middle quilts. So the middle is 1851 to 1900 cotton, 91 by 104 and a half.
That's a big one.
I can
That's
Half of
for
me,
a real big stack of feather beds on top of
yeah, well, and half of me is
feather
like I can
mattresses.
imagine trying to wrangle it onto that whatever kind of contraption there they have it on. Kind of looks like this roller thing.
Uh-huh.
So again, I'm not going to read all of these things, but we've got a whole lot of family names on here. And then this top one, oh, and I'm sorry, it was like gift of Marion L. Cheney. Kind of looks like a Cheney. And then we got the top, which is 1840 to 50, another big one, 97 and three quarters to 102 and a half. Gift of Helen Meredith. A whole nother stuff. Let's see, we got Caroline Hoops, married to Thomas Bateman, county commissioner, owned this quilt that was
Oh.
made in about 1840. Family names include a whole bunch of stuff. When we do this stuff, y'all, one of the reasons that we make sure to get legible stuff is that so you can pause and read everything if we're not reading everything, because we'll just be here forever. Oh, wow. I can remember now being there, being like,
Yeah, I know. You're like, ah!
yeah, trying to like get a picture of this. But hey, I was able, ooh, this green's really pretty. Ooh, so is
Hmm.
that one. I was able to capture, at least you can see that there are signatures. This quilt definitely has seen some life here, given the
Hmm.
coloring on it and things. Ooh, look, I was even, wow, you can even see, maybe not make it out legibly, but you can see
Yeah,
this.
those that quilt was they were probably a little more legible unless they weren't quite as faded or
Hmm. It's so interesting of just like all these quilts are like the same like colors. Although this one has more constant from like that yellow, but all the different, what's the word I'm
it
saying?
doesn't seem like so, they chose to show those three together, but there was no connection between those three, right? I know
Not
sometimes
at least that the
that they
stanchion,
had, yeah, I know
the
sometimes, I know I've seen several lectures where you'll get a situation where they might be totally different colors or they might be slight variations on the same pattern. Um, but based on the names, they can either say it's the same maker or it's made within the same community. And they're probably quilters who are like, I love my neighbor's quilt or I love my sister-in-law's quilt. I'm gonna make one for myself. Um,
Oh, well, I mean, there were so many different names in all
yeah.
three. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't at least some loose connection, but the card does not
Hmm.
suggest that. This one too here is using like a stamp or hand
Yeah.
drawn, embellished.
And
This kind of looks like a stamp, but
here's an interesting
embellishment.
question that I do not know the answer to, and maybe you have some ideas. Like what percentage of quilts were, particularly in this area, were the hand written, the hand inked, or the froctor inked versus just these stencils? The stencils were very popular. Um, that I don't know, were they regional or were they just kind of all over?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I know
that,
we've seen a fair number of Pennsylvania quilts from this area that use the Proctor, which is that
mhm.
fancy black lettering. Isn't that the font? The font is called black letter or something like that.
Yeah, I mean this is a little bit different because like this is either
Hmm.
just like a stamp or
Right. Yeah, it's
or
just a
just some
stamp or
really
they,
insane
yeah.
freehand drawing.
Hmm.
But the only one reason that just leads me to believe that like that could be a stamp is because these three here, they look very similar.
They have kind of an oval shape with the way that
Yeah, like
the
the flower or
yeah.
whatever that looks like. But I can't see them close enough to. I'm sure one of our friends will leave a comment if
Yeah.
um, letting us. Oh, wait, maybe I did get a better one. Yeah, see,
Oh,
they even
yep,
from here,
you can
they
see the
look
oval
very
shape.
similar.
Mhm.
Yeah, like these two right here. Let's see if I can get how close I can get before it gets weird. Yeah,
Yeah, you can
that looks
definitely see
pretty
that oval shape.
identical. Yeah, like the way the flowering appear.
Yeah,
Like,
those look like the ones that it's the stamp and then you put the letter, like the
yep.
type. It's
Yeah.
like clamped in there with the name.
Well, or you have the ones that's it's the stamp and then like you just write your name
Hmm.
on the thing because like this is like a curt like a script. It looks
Hmm.
like maybe they did that. Um, but that's neat. I also really like this just very simple.
Hmm.
What what is this kind of
It
quilting called?
it's a single like a single chain or a single. I think that sometimes they'll call it like a rope.
Mm.
But it's
I
a
really like how
single
it's
and
meeting.
then
Yeah, how it's meeting right here.
yeah, and you'll sometimes see the ones that are double. So you've got two lines that are doing that. And I've seen ones that are like up to like 4 and 5 lines. And of course, those are for very wide borders, generally
Mm.
not sashing. Those are generally borders. But yeah, it's a rope or a chain.
That's bananas. Oh, let's all take a minute to sit and praise this quilt. I just came this quilting. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad my phone picked it up so well. It's so
Yeah.
hard to photograph quilting sometimes. I just came from a New England quilt study group meeting on 2 days ago that we had at the New England Quilt Museum. There's a private Facebook group for it if you want to come in. You don't have to live in New England. Steph's in that group. And we that meeting was focusing on studying the actual quilting on quilts. There are some photos from it if you want to peruse. We had some very lively discussion. We always pay attention to quilting, but like never have I really been a part of something where that's your deep dive. That
Hmm.
group would have really, really enjoyed this quilt.
Yeah,
So
now
and
that
then
this one's like the 3 lines, the 3 line chain, and
Mhm,
it is in the sashing, but it's
mhm.
like just a little chunk because it's such a big device.
Well, and it's so
To have
funny.
place in there.
These ones right here look a lot bigger than these ones, but they're all 3 line. Isn't that interesting? Do
Yeah.
you agree? Don't they look bigger?
Um, it's hard for me to see just um, based on how it's showing up. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they look. I don't know. Yeah, they do kind of look larger, but I mean,
Yeah.
also consider the fact that they're not. I mean, it isn't. There's no continuum there. The continuum is vertical. The continuum horizontally is just these little
I
chunks.
wonder,
It's almost like an infinity. It's not even really a chain or a rope. It's like just
well,
almost an infinity sign.
I wonder if it's meant to give the illusion of interweaving.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, that's the quilting is just absolutely exquisite.
I know it's really pretty.
And what's funny too is given what they've chosen to do with the quilting, I would have expected an outer border of
Hmm.
another piece of this like sashing here, and they just end on the block. That's a very interesting design choice. Okay. So, quilt 1850, cotton 86 by 86 and a quarter, significantly smaller than some of the last ones we've seen. Gift of Ellen Bryce Dickey. This quilt was most likely made for the October 1850 marriage of Maris Kearns to Emma Jane I don't know how to say that name.
Yeah, I can't see Oh, Lefevre.
Lefevre?
Lefevre. Yeah.
Oh, Lefevre. Um, the
I'm
Kerns
sure
lived
there's
in
more of a French way to say it, but I think that the Americanized version is Lefevre.
oh, the Kearns lived in New Garden Township in the 1750s. Eli and Hannah Kearns had numerous children, most of whose names are on the quilt. A son named Maris. Interesting. I always thought that was generally a female name. Moved to Paradise, Lancaster County for work, and then married Emma Jane in October 1850 in Paradise. Eli and Hannah moved to Bart Township, Lancaster County, where they were members of a Society of Friends meeting, probably by transfer. Pennington, as written on the quilt, is now known as Atglen. Research by, oh, here you go. William and
Oh, that's
Charlene Stevens.
yeah, I know Bill and Charlene. They do awesome genealogical research.
Well, and you and I will be attending a lecture by them at the Penn Dry Goods show in May.
Yes, we will. Yep.
Mhm. Oh, good. I did get a couple of close-ups. That first picture was really good, but yeah, this reds. Mm-mm.
Yeah. This one has,
Yes.
is it an optical illusion because it's so, or is there a little bit of bleeding? Just a little faint halo of bleeding around the edge. Maybe it's just my screen, my eyeballs.
You guys, have you guys been getting insane amounts of spam calls lately? God.
Yes.
Oh my God. My phone just kept going crazy, which there's some things going on in my life that told me I needed to make sure that that wasn't important. But there's just so many spam calls. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's like a hint of bleeding, but I think it's mostly just I don't know about you, but oftentimes when I see red and white quilts together,
Yeah,
my
it's
brain
kind of, it vibrates a
automatically
little
is
bit. Yes.
it's almost like the red, like the colors bouncing off the outside of the white from the light.
Yes.
And
Yes. You're absolutely right. It vibrates a little bit and it's hard to tell. That's why I said, is it just my eyeballs or
yeah, it's funny. I actually when I was
I think
picking
it is just
quilts
my eyeballs. Yeah.
when I was picking quilts to go to that meeting when we were discussing quilting, I was going to bring a red and white, and I kept looking at it weird, being like, "Has this bled? I know this didn't. Did it bleed?" And sometimes I did. I do know from looking more closely. Sometimes what we're seeing is just the tinge from the seam allowance underneath coming through the white,
Ah, yes, that too. Yep.
which also gives the illusion. But yeah, we've got more like some just like really gorgeous red prints,
Mhm.
handwritten or
Ah,
stamped.
I forgot about this.
And I'm sorry, you guys, about the glare, but sometimes the way museums have their
Yeah.
lighting set up, there's no way to avoid it.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Like you get shadows and glare, and it's like, I mean,
Hmm.
you want the quilts to be safe, and you don't want the bad lighting, but you're also like, nah, I can't get good pictures.
Well, and without some of that lighting, you couldn't see things like the quilting, but
Yeah. Would you
take it
like me
away,
to take
dear.
this one? Okay. So handwritten or stamped? Most of the inscriptions on CCHC quilts are handwritten. In some instances, the names are true signatures. In others, a person with excellent handwriting wrote the name. We often have heard that. Some quilts have stamped names. The stamps are almost always a floral oval with a name in the center. There are no other examples of the marking in the museum or manuscript collection so far. The stamps were possibly like many craft tools, used only a few times for niche output. How did inking work? Well, there are nearby visible storage gallery cabinets, which we will show you on another recording, displaying examples of stencils, indelible ink, and other marking tools. By the way, Dr. Dutton did his research into indelible ink. The instructions specific to stenciling ink indicate that clean fabric should be free from starch or sizing, which would be a fabric stiffener. After stenciling, use a hot flat iron on the reverse side. The marking ink instructions note that the marked fabric should be exposed to the sunshine or pressed with a hot iron. Additionally, if a very fine cambric is to be marked, first starch it and iron it. Then mark with a clean pen. In both cases, washing the marked fabric should wait for several hours or up to several days. And that's just about, I guess, getting the ink to have a strong hold on the fabric. Basically,
Yeah.
I guess, anytime I see like instructions like this or with dyes or something, I think about like, well, if I dropped ketchup on my shirt and I wash it out right away, things might go well. If I let it sit around in the hamper for a week, I am going to have a ketchup stain on my shirt forever.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's kind of the
it's a
same.
it's a shame too, because I've definitely seen quilts where maybe like someone didn't follow particular directions, and like you
Mhm.
can tell the signatures there, and now that we've come up with some better kind of photography tricks for like reading difficult
Yeah.
signatures and different kinds of special lighting and stuff. The it almost looks like they used one of those like jumbotron fonts that we have now available to us, because like the signature is so bled out that it's just
Mhm.
like these big ballooned like letters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
And I think in some cases those might have been ink that was not indelible, you
it's
know?
that's possible too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember there was a lot of this kind of pattern going on,
Hmm.
although this this border treatment here is really cool.
I think that border is very interesting because that looks a lot like the Happy Hands trees, which we know
It
is
kind
indicative of New York quilts. And
of,
we
mhm.
have a friend in EQSG who she collects a lot of, she's from New York and collects a lot of New York quilts. And she's kind of documented that that little device. Although what's inside the quilt itself is, you know, it's Chester County or surrounding areas. So I think it's interesting. You look at things like this and you wonder, did this person, the person that made that quilt, did they have a contact maybe or a family member in New York that and they saw that like what the people in New York were doing, or maybe a neighbor came from New York or something like that. So when you see something that's like very like normally seen in another place, you just always ask like, did they move? Did they know somebody? Like it's so interesting to think of those stories. And you
It's
know, if
kind of
your
like,
research can prove it, that's really fun.
yeah, like there's like there should be a book out there called like the traveling movement of motifs.
Yeah.
Because someone will be like, "Oh my God," you know, like you go to visit your girlfriend and you're like, "Let me show you this like really cool pattern." Like,
Hmm.
so let's see. Are these ones, oh, are these ones not marked, which is the top and which is the bottom? Well, that's a bummer.
I just assume that the one that's at the top of the page is the
I,
top.
I, I hope. Um, so let's hope that's the case. We've got quilt 1800s, cotton 91 by, again, 101. Gift of Mr. and Mrs. Ellis Eastern. Note, okay, there we go. Yeah, note the use of fleur-de-lis. They're calling them fleur-de-lis. Interesting. They look more like trees to me than a fleur-de-lis.
Yeah, they look like the
Um,
Happy Hands trees.
Notice them in the border, similar to the quilt top to the left. We'll probably see that next. Family names include a whole bunch of names. And then on the bottom, 1840s, cotton 109 by 111. Oh my.
Oh my gosh, that is huge.
I mean, to be fair, I'm gonna to quote another, quilt nerd historian friend. They had said to me recently that, generally speaking, if a quilt is really, really huge, it's really, really old. So
Yeah,
1840s, yeah.
yeah. It Princess and the Pea situation with all the the feather mattresses stacked up, and I mean that. Yeah, that's
Well, and I also think too about how high some antique beds sometimes could
yes.
be.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, you
if
think
you want a
people of
significant drop.
yeah, I mean, people of means may have had trundle beds under, so that's why beds sit
Mhm.
up so high, as you know. Also heat rises. It really helps. If your bed is up higher, if you're right down on the floor, you're getting cold at night. If you're
Hmm.
raised up, you know, heat rises and you would have a better chance of staying warm.
Hmm. So let's see, 1840s, gift of Barbara Brock Kidder, 51 squares have family names.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
And with that many names, these quilts, I mean, I'm not going to say it's always easy, but these quilts would be um you have lots of data there that you can research, particularly if you
yeah.
know from the person gifting it, if they have some at least general provenance to say like, you know, this was through my family, so we know it came from this geographic location. You could do some really incredible research, and the Stevens, they do that kind of research. Village Charlene.
Well, and this one here has the name Garrett on it. I
Ah,
wonder, I don't know if we asked or if it was ever said, but I wonder if could this person be somewhat distantly related to our friend Barb Garrett? But I'm
could
curious,
be.
I've never done any genealogical research. Is there the option when you're like plugging stuff into things to like put in like a whole group of names to kind of maybe narrow some things down? Like what could it search that way about how names are like connected?
Um, kind of, sort of. I mean, you would there's not necessarily any way of just taking like copy those names and plop them in and say find how these people in Chester County, you know. But yeah, you kind of like start pulling threads and you would start to look probably under like the most unique name. You know, like if you've got,
Because there's
you
only
know,
there might only be a couple of those as opposed to
yeah,
17 Williams.
in a very like what they would call like a community, like there's a couple different terms for it, like in a community that is isolated, geographically, or people that are isolated in terms of like the Amish and the Mennonites. They tended not to, marry outside their groups. They're very insular. So you'll see situations like that where you've got the same name over and over and over again, and it's that's when it's really tough. But yeah, you kind of start with like, what's the name and out of here that's like the most unique, and then see if you can find those people. That's kind of my first, start. Bill and Charlene might have another way that they do it, but generally it's trying to find something that either is the low hanging fruit, which, if you like, I know the one said something about commissioner. So if like, well, a Commissioner Brown, or I can't remember what the person's name was, but that person you could look up and, usually have some documented information about them. So,
Hmm. Oh, good. I got some close-ups of this one. Yeah, so then here's that same like
hmm
motif here with putting their name in. And this gorgeous red that
is
didn't.
this elbow quilting on this one? I'm trying to tell. Is it,
Yeah, I mean it looks like it's the like the
it
Baptist
looks like
family kind of.
there may be just arcs though. They're not like a Bapt, like a, or maybe I'm,
Yeah, I mean it looks like
yeah, it does kind of look, I mean, it does have the Baptist family.
hmm, I really like the yeah, that does not at all say fleur-de-lis to me.
Yeah. But I can also see that too, like a person who, is maybe not a super artist, like cutting out a pattern and saying, like, I think this looks like a fleur-de-lis. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, this one's really pretty.
mhm. And this
Mm.
one has the fleur-de-lis on it too. See, now this one, I feel like the fleur-de-lis looks a little bit more like a fleur-de-lis, not so much like the happy hands.
Well, and it's interesting too. So you've got like the bigger ones, and then you got these like little ones up here.
And then you have the four in the middle.
Hmm. Yeah, this one's really nice. I also like that they put the this one kind of like on one of those like leaning kind of.
hmm
The sashing fabric too is very interesting. It's not the kind of sashing fabric I would have expected in a quilt like this because it's almost a little like loud in terms
hmm
of like the other colors. I mean it works. It kind of blends in when
Yeah.
your eye is just resting, but like when you're paying attention to that fabric, I'm sure I probably got like a close up. So quilt top 1840 to 1848, another big one, 111 and 3/4 by 113 and a half.
And that's why it is on that big thing because
Yeah, yeah. This is one of several very large unfinished quilt tops at the CCHC. This example follows the style of a unique, usually appliqued center block. Its decorative ink drawing is more complex. I don't know if I got a picture of that, but and surrounds the name Esther Woodward Chatham, 1848. A variation of the fleur-de-lis in the border can also be seen in the upper right. A bunch of place names, bunch of family names. Let's see. Oh, good. I did get a
yeah,
close.
that is a really loud
Yeah,
fabric.
it's so unexpected to place that
Yeah.
with
But it looks
technically.
so good from a distance, you know?
Yeah, I would not have ever thought to put those colors together.
And
Um,
that's a question that I would be very curious about is, we always, people always underestimate the women that made these quilts. They're like, oh, they were just scraps and this and that. And I really wonder, did the maker of this quilt, I mean, it seems like they've got a whole bunch of different turkey reds. So, that may have been in their mind, like, I'm all these different turkey reds. And then I'm going to go consistently with this bright, is this like a chrome yellow? Um, and then she looked at that other fabric and went, I really like this fabric. How could I incorporate that? And then she put them together and she like walked back and went, this is gonna work.
mhm,
And it's just like people quilters do today in the quilt shop. I mean, I've seen lots of quilters do that. They'll pull a bunch of fabric, they'll kind of layer it, they'll stand back and look at it. I'm wondering if these women were doing that. I mean, certainly their technical skill was so, so high. And
mhm.
um It would not surprise me at all if they had that, that eye and were able to do that. And we underestimate them thinking like, "Oh, she just cut up her dress." No, I think this lady like really made some artistic decisions.
Yeah, so I was wondering at first if the setting triangles were consistent with their red fabric, but they're not. They're just consistent with the yellow.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it looks like the yellow is consistent and the sashing is consistent, but the reds are not
The reds are
consistent.
all different. And
Yeah.
to me again, that's a decision.
Hmm.
That's not
Well, yeah, you're gonna have to plan that out if you're gonna have that much
yeah.
consistency
Well, and I mean, this
with
is
certain
not,
reds.
people didn't have like 50 different red dresses. You know, it may have been a situation where they had to like, trade with each other perhaps, or maybe a person of means went and said, "All right, I want a yard of each of those turkey reds you've got there in the
Yeah,
general
because I
store."
mean, you
Yeah.
need a decent amount of red for each one of these blocks.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. No, there was definitely a lot of planning in here. This print here is very interesting. And of course they're planning like I don't think their placement is happenstance either because they're keeping kind of the prints that are a little more involved away from each other.
Hmm.
Like see these two blocks here have the same red, but they're not next to each other.
Right. Yeah.
Like this one's a little louder, but like it's away from this one and
Hmm. She
so yeah,
may
they're
not have had a design wall, but she planned this out.
Mhm. Yeah. Now we're going to something significantly more simplistic compared to that one. But
Mhm.
no, le I mean, you needed to plan something like this out, that's for sure.
Yeah, I love that one. I got a
Mhm.
good number of pictures of that one.
Mhm. So, does this one also not tell me if it's the top or the bottom? So we've got quilt top 1840 to 60, cotton 76 by 57 and a half. That's an interesting size. Each of the 49 blocks in this broad red X, so this is the quilt on the top, um, with white square at each intersection. In that small white space, one can read the family names, more family names. In an unusual step, a previous owner wrote over the original inscriptions, probably to make them more readable. Interesting.
Ah, okay.
As the donor located fabric pieces, she gave them to the museum over time. Some of the blocks and cut fabric are in the case to the left. There are
Yep.
pictures of cases later.
Yep.
Other blocks are in the visual storage. Okay, so let's see. Did I get a close up of?
I
Okay.
thought as you were reading, she wrote over them. I was like, what? She's like, well, my brother has divorced that woman. Scribble, scribble, scribble. But no, she was just trying to make them more legible, right?
So interesting. This also had to be planned, but like these two blocks here are the same red that ended up together. These two are very similar in their print. These two are rather similar in their print. It's
Hmm.
really interesting how people decide to,
Yeah.
but you don't know, like, was that on purpose? Was it just
Or was
happenstance?
that a just like, oh man, like, oh, it's fine. I know I've done that. I've been like, well, I don't want this. Oh, but if I move that and oh, and sometimes you're just like, nobody's gonna look that hard. And then
Hmm.
150
People
years
like us
later,
come by and look
people
that
like
hard.
us are looking that hard.
Yeah.
And that poor lady is looking down on us going like, you two shut up and appreciate my hard work.
I mean, we are appreciating. I am appreciating that I can actually see these signatures from, keep in mind, like we're standing there. This was at the ceiling height.
Hmm.
So I'm
Oh yeah, that would yeah.
we're literally like this, like
Yeah,
trying to
those
take
those
photos.
really were they were hung up really high. So,
Hmm. So then we've got quilt 1847, 87 and a half by 97 and a quarter. The arrangement of this 9 square block is somewhat unusual compared to the other quilts at the museum. Among the names are lots of names. And then at the bottom, 1916, 91 by 90 and a half. The Ladies' Aid Society of the Marshallton Methodist Church made this patriotic quilt. The
yeah.
donors, the donor's late husband's grandmother supervised. Many
Wow.
of the names are Can family members or Khan. Family groupings are documented in the white blocks. That is very helpful, including a note that it was given to Harry and Dorothy Can Khan. So here's this center one. This is just very simple and elegant.
Hmm.
Especially, it's
Yeah.
really interesting to couple these just half square triangles with this like diamond
Yeah. It's
quilting.
because they're different angles.
Hmm. And this ink is fantastic. Like it's so dark. And
Hmm.
this isn't even the one where she went over it extra. Like that is some very
Yeah.
legible ink. And of course, just gotta love me some turkey reds. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think this quilt probably never saw light or
Mm,
use. It
mm,
was carefully stored.
hmm. And then here's your patriotic.
Yeah. I loved this one because I was well, yeah, around this time last year I was kind of up to my eyeballs in some patriotic and bicentennial stuff. So this one caught my eye right away.
And the bummer about this one is you can see how faded.
Yeah.
Like it looks like it's probably really readable if you're really like, you'd probably have to take a picture and maybe darken some things a bit, but
Mhm.
you can just tell it's very light ink. But
Well,
it's
and
nice that they
it strikes me as this one probably was displayed. I mean, if
hmm
it's if the intent was like a patriotic kind of thing, um, they could have displayed it anywhere, and definitely light would have faded the
hmm
signatures.
But I like that they recorded so much information, more than most. That is very
Yeah.
helpful.
And also, I mean, again, one of our friends might might correct me, but I think this kind of cadet blue was very popular, like turn of the century slash World War One era. That's a color that is very specific to that time period.
I don't know what the point of this photo was.
I don't know.
Like, how did I take this photo?
Yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say it's almost like it's like you held the camera weird or something upside down. I don't know.
yeah, I must have. I must have meant to take it like this, probably to capture this right here, is what I'm gonna guess, now that I've changed the angle.
Yeah.
Because that's a dark
Ah, yes, a good
signature. Yeah.
inking.
I was probably trying to get that, yeah.
Yeah.
I was really like, did I lay on the floor? And like, what did I do?
Often when I go through my photos, I will find some, I'm like, what is this? And it's obvious like it was I don't know, what do you call a butt dial when it's really a photograph? Sometimes my phone just like it thinks it's supposed to keep taking photos, I guess. I don't know. I get my thumb and my shoe and the floor a lot. So,
So then this is the case that
yeah.
other the quote with the X there
Hmm.
was talking about. I always, when I'm taking photos with this, with streaming in mind, I always try to follow the direction the museum wants me to go to keep it as true as possible for you guys.
Hmm.
So I was talking about, yeah, the fabric samples that she had, like these are dated. I have to tell you, I've never seen so much turkey red in one room
No,
ever.
there was a, and when you talked about we were going to look at this exhibit, and I was like, oh gosh, that's been so many months ago, and I was like in my mind trying to think like, gosh, what are all the quilts we saw in there? In my mind, they were all red and white. And now that we look, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I remember these. They weren't all red and white. There were other colors.
Yeah,
But yeah, there
this
was a proliferation of turkey red in there.
Yeah, there were numerous cases in the middle here, and one thing that's fantastic is like these are big swatches, and
Hmm.
she's got them dated. And I do remember as we were going through things, I'm pretty sure I'd said like this would be a great place to go if you're doing like actual fabric study
Hmm.
because they've just got such a plethora of
Right.
swatches
Yeah.
and things. And then like the inking on this particular block is so cool because look, it kind of looks like it's like an open like autograph book. Remember those like skinny like
Yes.
books?
Little books. Uh-huh.
Yeah, like that. That's really, really neat.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's the
This
other half.
Well, oh yeah, the needlework tools, of course. But yeah,
Hmm.
I was just going to say about this fabric. I mean, this is such a treasure trove, and the fact that it's connected with a signature quilt where, you can get like pretty hard and fast dates because of the names. And like this is a treasure trove of research, and anything that's been, labeled, you know, at that time or labeled by somebody that would remember. I mean, oh my gosh, what a historic trove of fantastic information.
And you even got a bunch of already cut pieces here
Hmm.
for one of these blocks. And then, of course, we've got different thimbles here, a thimble holder, a thread winder,
All that stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, little
yeah,
goodies.
a needle holder and a tape measure and pins and a
Mhm.
sewing bird. Like there's just
There's little stork scissors are there at the bottom.
all the goodies here. So let's see. Unfinished. Feel no guilt. If you, I need to like move this. My stuff's in the way. Here we go. Feel no guilt if you have unfinished needlework projects. The blocks and cut pieces that create a bold red X date to the 1840s. The blocks unfinished quilt top at the top of this row and cut pieces were donated over a period of 11 years as the donor located more related fabric. Note the turkey red rectangles of fabric on which names are sewn temporarily. We believe that this represents what would be inscribed on a future quilt block in which the fabric would be used. There are additional examples of prints with attached names and visible storage. I love how it tells you like how and where. Like people
Yeah.
would write that down and then run to the cabinet. This is a small selection from numerous needlework tools in the museum collection. They have so many
Yeah.
needlework
Yes,
tools.
indeed. Just a small selection. They do have such wonderful stuff
Mhm.
there.
So yeah, more just names and things of things in there. Okay, this one's yours.
Oh, it's all about turkey red.
Mm-hmm.
Can you zoom in just a teeny bit more?
Yes.
Sorry, my eyeballs are so
Is
bad.
that enough?
Okay.
You need more?
Yeah, that's good. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Turkey red. A remarkable number of turkey red prints appear in cotton quilts made in Chester County. This fabric was first made in Scotland in the 1780s and gained popularity in the 1820s with the advent of roller printing and madder dye. Red dye was historically highly sought after, but expensive. Cochineal, which is the scale of an insect, and I'm wondering, I guess that's a picture of the insect.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look like I
I'll
thought it
scroll
did.
down when you get
Yeah,
there.
I know, but I'm like, it doesn't. I don't think I ever read this little sign, and I did not know that's what the insect looked like.
Oh.
Is it is found only in tropical areas of North and South America. Some historians argue that cochineal was more valuable to colonizers than silver or gold. The madder plant produced a less expensive red dye. These red prints actually started as a solid red fabric that was then bleached to remove the red in the desired pattern. The fabric continued through multiple other rollers, each printing a different color to create the final design. These patterns are called turkey red prints because red fabric was a well known export from the country of Turkey centuries before.
Hmm.
So that's the madder plant on the left, and then
Mm-hmm.
this creepy little cochineal bug. I don't know what is up with it in flight or whatever.
The stuff of your nightmares.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I don't want to look at cochineal anymore. Oh. But turkey red
Um,
was a very complex process too. Like
mm-hmm.
it had a lot you had to do to get it to stay that bright and color fast.
Mm-hmm. This quilt's so pretty.
Yeah, I know. I remember looking at this a lot because of the
Mm-hmm.
just the beautiful.
I think there's another one too, I think, where
Yeah, there are two where we were
we
just
were,
like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah, we
look.
were taking lots of pictures of blocks here. So we've got 1853 cotton 93 by 101. This style is often described as an album quilt because its 25 applique blocks are unique from each other. The exceptions are the three pillars. It is connected to Christiana just across the western border. Oh, okay, that's a place, not a person. Just across the western border in Lancaster County near Atklin. The predominant family name is Bush. Other names include Wilson, Lammy, Myers, Reed, and Wilkinson. I dated a Wilkinson once a million years ago.
So I think I remember as I was looking at these, like these are like, this is kind of the heyday of album quilts, with Baltimore album quilts and Baltimore not being far away, I feel like that there was probably a lot of like,
How
inspiration between
how far is Baltimore from the area we're talking about here?
um Chester County. It's probably about an hour and a half, maybe a
Yeah,
little
so
more.
that's I
Yeah.
mean, during this period, that's pretty far, but
It
actually, it's
it
really not that
is.
far. It's really
It
not that
is, but if you remember, our dear friends
far.
that are the experts in this have talked to us about like the Susquehanna, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a main river that kind of runs from, through Maryland and Pennsylvania. And so people to the east of the Susquehanna were, like coastal and Lancaster County and all that. On the other side of the Susquehanna, you've got people that are heading towards the mountains. And even though we are talking about some major differences between like the Philadelphia region and Lancaster and Baltimore, I think you still had more of a trade route there than you would have had like crossing the Susquehanna. So,
Mm-hmm. I remember one thing we were talking about specifically is all the little quilting motifs that were
yeah,
found. Like these pineapples
pretty.
are fantastic, and we got these little birds up here.
Hmm.
Like this almost kind of looks like a lotus flower. I'm not saying that it is, it just kind of looks like one. This, I'm sure, is part of a flower, but from the picture here, it looks like a lobster claw.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, those tulips, like those tulipy kind of flowers were just so indicative of that area,
hmm.
Like you see so much of that, and it's that Pennsylvania German, Pennsylvania Dutch influence.
Oh, yeah, I was like, I'm gonna zoom in and get this one real good. Yeah, so I actually think I
Joanna,
have a stamp that's similar to this with the bird.
yeah, Joanna Wilkinson, is that what that says?
Or or G
Jean
Gina.
Simmons.
I was gonna say it could also be like Gina Wilkinson. It's definitely Wilkinson.
Oh
Then we
yeah.
got these babies. These roller things are very, very interesting.
Yeah,
It's a
they
great
are.
way to use extra space because they really were cramming a lot of quilts in here. If you'd hung them on the wall,
Hmm.
there's no way we could have
Yeah,
had all of
they wouldn't have been able to get half of them in there.
them. So, hold on. These applique patterns of red and green on a white background differ in proportion and or not, sashing border or not between the blocks. First 1846, 94 and three quarters by 97 and three quarters. Place names include East Whiteland Township, Willistown Township, see this one? It has no A in it. East Goshen Township, and Philadelphia. Family names on
Wonder if they're
42.
wonder if we're talking about two different places or there was a typo
That's
in our
why
head.
the other one really threw me because I thought
Yeah,
Goshen
because I
only
think it's
had the
Goshen.
O.
Because like the Goshen hopper,
Hmm.
like that's I think probably a related maybe name. I'm not sure. Got a lot of German
Hmm.
influence there.
And then the second quilt, 1850, a big one, 106 by 106. There are no place names on this quilt. Family names include a whole lot of names.
Is that another Garrett
Mhm.
I see?
Where? Oh, yep, there's a Garrett up here, right here. Hmm.
Don't mind me just having some gummies.
I bet you no one probably would have noticed if you hadn't even said anything.
Well, I'm just thinking, you're generally not supposed to eat while you're looking at quilts, but that's the great thing when you're looking at quilts online. I could just be eating Cheetos.
I really liked the signatures on this because they're more like stylized.
Hmm.
They've got a little razzle dazzle added to them.
Well,
Ooh.
and it's interesting when they tuck them into this is an oak leaf and reel, right? They tucked
Mm-hmm.
them there into the reel
Mm-hmm.
instead of centering them.
Mm-hmm.
No. I think my
Agreed.
inclination would have been to put like they did here, to
Yep.
put it in the center of the reel with a different colored piece of fabric.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like the placement of this one where like they've got the print going.
Hmm.
And this almost, I mean, I obviously we're gonna lose some clarity here as I like, but this looks like an eagle
Hmm.
drawing. I'm not quite sure that it is, but that's definitely what it looks like. Some kind of big ass bird.
It does. Yeah, actually there was a oh, and I'm gonna draw a complete blank on her name. I think I have one of her books like real close on my bookshelf over here. It was a woman that she is deceased now, but she was a big inking on fabric research person, and she developed her own set of stamps, like rubber stamps
Hmm.
that she could use to recreate, and they were based on original stamps. And I have the eagle. See, I went to a retreat where somebody had them, and I stamped on a bunch of fabrics. It looks so familiar. I can recognize
Oh,
the shape. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that you had something. So this one's yours.
When were quilts most popular? Always. Always quilts are popular. Come on. All right. Probate inventories of estates housed at Chester County Archives provide detailed information about what people owned. Such documents, though, represent only a portion of the population. Wills have never been required. Bed quilts first appeared in the sampled probate inventories in the mid 1700s. They were listed at about, was it 18%?
Hmm.
18% of the records in Coventry, Nottingham, Tred Tredyffrin, and
Whatever.
Euclid townships. Oh goodness, these are places I haven't heard of. These municipalities represent clusters of cultural backgrounds and economic settings. By the late 1700s and into the 1800s, quilts increased to about 25% of both German and British households, the two predominant cultural groups. These numbers were particularly evident among those with greater discretionary wealth. The number of quilts increased in estates into the mid 1800s. Interestingly, there appears to be an indirect correlation to hand spinning. When fiber spinning became mechanized in the early 1800s, fewer local homes had spinning wheels for flax or wool. Instead, women in households appeared to shift to quilting. Interesting. I don't know that I had ever heard that necessarily.
Hmm. Yeah, this was one that you and I were oogling over for a while.
Yes, absolutely, because this one had some really interesting applique pieces that we were like, this was clearly a person who was kind of marching to their own beat
Hmm.
here, and I love that.
Yeah, this block in the center here,
That
particularly,
one, and
like,
then that where they've taken
wow.
the two princess feathers and just kind of done
Hmm.
their own thing with them. Yeah.
Hmm. So we've got 1850 to 1900, 94 by 92. Most notable about this quilt compared to other Chester County examples is the variety of the color and the complexity of the applique designs. Yes, I think Steph, even you mentioned that you felt like an underachiever next to this quilt. Um, Closer examination suggests that the blocks or the top were started in 1850. Additions may have been made later, such as the double pink row two, fourth from the left, and the cheddar row bottom center. The solid red backing and the thickness of the relatively thick batting suggests that it was completed decades later. What do you think? This descended in the Pearson family. Other names include Hoops, Phillips, Mendenhall, among others. Oh yeah, I really liked that blue.
That's right. This one has that really interesting cross thing at the
Hmm.
corners, and it was like it seems like they,
Are you talking about this right here?
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
it's almost like the sashing is
Cornerstone?
lashed together, like that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah. It was very, and then like these cute
Hmm.
little just triangles at the end. But yeah, this
Yeah.
this color combination here. I think it wasn't it Mary that was like, I love polka dots. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, this was really, really pretty. Oh yeah, and this one. Oh, those
Yeah.
pieces.
It's yeah, all these tiny little intricate pieces, and then there's a little bit of embroidery on there.
Hmm. Some extra razzle dazzle.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I could not. And then like it's like they drew further representation of like what they
Yeah,
were already doing.
yeah.
That's
And I think the
just
quilting, the quilting on this one's pretty sparse, but
And
The,
simplistic.
the applique is such that, like, obviously the maker was far more interested in the applique than they were in the quilting.
Hmm. Yeah, there it is. I was like, there's no way I didn't get a picture of that block.
Yeah, the birds.
There's just so
And all of these
pretty.
flowers, I mean, to some extent, I mean, they're probably based on flowers that the maker could see in her, her garden or in her surroundings, but they almost look fanciful, like she
Yeah, well,
just
I
was
mean,
kind
this
of
took some
winging it.
serious planning to like have all these
Mhm.
different colors in here and things.
Yeah,
And then
for
you got more
sure.
embellishment. Or like look at the way they made this leaf like turn down.
Right? Like yes, I know.
Like
Like, I
it's
mean,
like
that's artistry. Man, you like,
I mean these birds, they took time to put eyes on these birds.
mm-hmm.
And look, they look at their little feet. I didn't notice. Hold on, let me zoom in. Like I didn't notice before. Like they got little feetsies, the little toes. That is cute.
Yeah,
And you can
this was
see,
my favorite one in that whole room, definitely.
well, and you can see like how expert of a job they like you can see all the tiny stitching for this applique.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. I got your princess feathers.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at how tiny
Yeah.
all of these little things are. And then we're just like, and a name. We're like, don't pay attention. Who cares about this name? Look at this over here. Maybe you'll notice
Yeah.
that name. This block too is very interesting too because
Yeah,
it
the
just
stars and the
the way.
crescents, because the points are just so, and you don't usually see stars that look like that.
Now, did you happen to watch the video clip that I captured from the solo stream I did when you cut your fingers?
I
I
didn't.
had okay, so I posted this clip talking about applique quilts and why I tend to like gravitate
Oh,
towards
yes,
them.
I did see that. Yeah.
And I was talking about I don't make them because of these spiky doodads.
Yes, I did see Spiky
Yeah.
Doodahs. Yes, that was a
Yeah.
clip. Hmm.
So this one here has some serious spiky doodads going on.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, and by the way, if I remember correctly, those little tiny stems and the flowers that are above the princess feathers, that's not embroidered. That was fabric, if I remember correctly. And if it's not,
yeah, that's
those down
fabric.
there are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fabric. Hmm. It
Yeah.
looks like I had gotten this block a second time because I was just like, I just gotta look at it again. Now, wait, maybe these little viney things
Yeah, some
though.
of those, I think the little vines in this one and the little like spiky bits are that is definitely embroidery. But
Hmm.
those other two blocks,
Hmm.
and there's several wreaths in there that have just the tiny, I mean, it's like eighth of an inch or less fabric. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's very impressive.
So we got these three babies, which is I kind of feel like unless we're gonna find out otherwise when we read the thing, I kind of was just like, these are just the last three that they had, and they were just like, well, they don't necessarily all belong together, but we got to put them together because we
This
can't
is the
not
room
show
we have
them.
left.
Yep. Let's see here. So starting from the bottom, we've got 1840, 98 by 70 by 98 and three quarters by 103. And then we've got family names associated with this quilt. And then the middle quilt is 1843, 99 and a quarter by 94. More than most of the quilts at the museum, this one includes a greater number of names with German origin. This suggests a northern Chester County place of origin that is reinforced by references to Whitpain Township, Montgomery County on some of the blocks. The family name Phrase Phrase suggests a connection to Phoenixville in northern Chester County. So here's the bottom one. Oh, this is interesting. This has that like,
Yeah, that chain, but it's two of them side by side instead of doubled up.
yeah, that's very interesting.
They
Again,
loved that device though, that design device, that chain thing.
hmm
They really do love that in Pennsylvania.
hmm. I don't know that we've seen this red print yet either. Like, I'm just picturing just everything red over there in that time period. Red and yellow. And then this is the middle one. I really like the star block. I don't think there was any other quilt in there that had this particular block. And
Mm-mm.
then like, look at that. That is definitely a hand-drawn scenario of birds in their little nest. That is some craziness. Got a lot of ink dropping here. Just eating through
Well,
is probably black.
and I know that we always talk about certain types of fabrics and colors that deteriorate. It said in that one piece about how the solid red was bleached to create some of these little designs, and I'm like, is that why they're falling apart in those spots?
It's usually a black that's coming out. Like, see,
Yeah,
it might
I
be it
do
might be right
I
here that
do
you see
know
some black.
that. Yeah, I do know that, but I'm also wondering, like, could the bleach process, like, whatever kind of bleaching process they use, I'm wondering if that could, like, also be part of the interaction. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
not, we've got
you
we've got a
actually
friend who is a chemistry person who could probably tell
you
us
have a
the
lot
best.
of you have a lot of that black surviving over here.
Yeah, like the black and the brown, I know are a problem too. So yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And they really love to use that kind of black on these turkey red prints.
Well,
So then,
I mean, with the red being so bright, the black and white are they show up the best.
mhm. So here we've got the top one, mid 1800s. Well, this is huge, 118 by 122. I
Oh my
think
God,
this
I
is
think
the
that might be the
biggest
biggest
one.
one.
Go figure, it ends
That's
up on
not
the
a
top.
quilt. That's a circus tent.
The diamond and applique blocks arranged on point create a strong diamond layout emphasized by the red sashing. The predominant family name is Fairlam. Also included are Sharpless, another Garrett, Thatcher, Walter, and Williamson. Wow, I guess I didn't realize how big this was looking up at it, like,
Hmm.
but these are really
And that
gorgeous.
one has got some crazy narrow appliques too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that is fabric.
Mm-hmm.
That is not embroidery. We're talking like eighth of an inch,
Yeah.
little, maybe even less. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and again, like we've got these huge blocks and these huge flowers and just like boop, little name, boop, little name. All right, on to a couple of the last cases here. If I remember correctly, I think this one was really fragile, and that's why it was in here.
Yeah. And isn't it just a top? Or
I
I
think
can't
so.
remember.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it
just a
looks like it's just a
fragment.
top here. But yeah, like I love these little like these flowers that created these tiny little stars.
Hmm.
And then all of this like really small applique, like even in these like corner blocks, like look how tiny that is.
Yes, I remember like getting my face right up to the glass in this case and just like, oh, and
I
those
think
itty
I
bitty
hit my
little
forehead on it. When you like go into like a bonk.
kind of press your face against it. Yeah. Yes,
And then,
this is a very tiny little stitching in here.
well, and I think these are aren't some of these are cross stitched, aren't they?
Oh, I don't
Signatures?
remember.
Oh,
I don't remember one way or the other, but
okay. But doesn't this look cross stitched potentially? Yeah, it looks like it
uh
might be cross stitched. If not,
maybe.
it's a very
Yeah.
big inking.
Yeah, maybe. I can't tell.
All right, let's see. All right, so yes, quilt top about 1840, 81 by 83 and a half. The inscriptions in this applique quilt top are embroidered. There we go.
Mm,
In
okay.
very fine cross stitch. Okay. The inscription strongly suggests that this was made for the marriage of Daniel and Mary A. Ubel by Rachel Feister. It is not possible to determine the names represented by the initials. And then it gives a whole big list of all the initials and things. So let's see here. Yeah, this block was just so cool. Look at all
Hmm.
those tiny little berries and things. Yeah, so when people are like, "Oh, why do you like
Yeah.
applique quilts so much?" I'm like, "I don't make them and look at this nonsense. Like, look at this border.
Look at
Like,
that little wreath. I mean that block alone is probably not that big. I mean it's less than 12 inches, I'm sure.
probably.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's probably
I think it was like
but
10.
yeah, I have my little cutting mat on my desk and it's like, yeah, 10 inches probably sounds about right. And I mean that probably took forever. An itty bitty bitty stitching.
Yep. I mean, even this little wreath is even smaller. I want to say that these other blocks felt, well, maybe that block was 12 because I feel like these blocks were more like 6. And then I don't know. They were small. But yeah, look at these. I
Yeah.
love this tiny little star and more red prints than just endless red prints. Here we were always thinking that like fabric during that period was boring in terms of like choice, like it was super limiting, like they didn't have,
hmm
but you seen right here, they had a lot of
Yeah.
different reds to choose from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just fabric production, once everything becomes mechanized, you have a lot more options and choices because things happen faster,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like this just explosion of opportunities and, I mean, consumerism.
Mm-hmm. And some more blocks in here that we're talking more about that freehand, okay?
hmm
Freehand
Yeah, the
drawing of
leaves.
things.
And I
And
love this black. Is this like, I don't know, would that be considered a morning print or no?
I mean, it's looking bluish to me.
Oh, is it? See, I thought it was gray.
So I'm looking at some of the like it almost looks like it's got like staining on it. It's like this looks brighter than this.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's one of those things too. Does it look blue because it's against a red?
Yeah.
You know what
Or
I mean?
is
Like
it,
if it was
yeah.
just on its own, would it look a little more gray and more
Yeah.
morning? I don't know. Let's see if the
Oh.
thing says anything
Either
about.
way, it's a cool because it's got that little sprig and they're not real
Mm-hmm.
close together. So I always like those kind of prints.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. Unfinished. These blocks are pieced in the design of the quilts hanging along the wall in front of you. Here it is possible to see these elaborate ink inscriptions up close. They are more elaborate than most. The white cotton in the center of each block is glazed. This is a selection of the blocks that were part of the donation, numbering 36. Several of the other blocks in this group have handwriting and blurred at some point, circa 1845. Yeah, it doesn't mention what that other print is, unfortunately. Yeah, it's funny. It looks bluer here, but I'm wondering on its own if it's more gray.
Yeah, also, yeah, this image of it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, look at all that handwork. Like here we were like, if you were feeling like an underachiever with some of that applique, like just wait. Just wait. Not only are you not this like phenomenal appliquer, but you also can't draw. Like,
Not with a pen and ink for sure. I would have to
and
be
not on
erasing.
fabric.
Yeah, I know. I'd have to be erasing stuff, pencil.
Mhm. Yeah, like look at that. Oh my God, I totally forgot that there were even like names and stuff on this big
Inscribed,
ass
yeah, on the
leaf.
leaves. Yeah, I forgot about that too.
That's just crazy. Oh, oh, I took a pan, I remember, of the whole room.
I've gotten pretty good at tiny, tiny little circles after Mary Mother. Oh,
Oh
There's
gosh,
Stephanie laughing in the background.
that's I went back to it.
what obnoxious thing was I saying? It was
Oh,
me and
there's
Anne.
Ian. Yeah, just so everybody could see. I mean, this was a small room, and they packed a lot in this room.
And one thing I never noticed is the walls in this room are not white.
Oh, you didn't notice that?
It just I never paid attention to it.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um
one of those like kind of hint of green kind of.
mhm.
Yeah. And then this
This was
is
the
part
quilt
of,
documentation, right?
yeah, that I thought I would. They had this, you saw when I took that pan, they had this hanging over a fireplace in the, because we're in this building is like a historic home type building.
hmm
And I thought it would just be, I forget, is one of our friends in here?
I feel like Anne pointed somebody out to us, but I can't remember if it's one of our friends or somebody famous. I can't remember. Somebody famous within our circles. Angelina Jolie was not there, but
Yeah, I thought I had to, make sure that that we, paid respect to people doing quilt documentation.
Yes, is a very important thing.
Well, and I mean, I feel like it's the way a lot of important quilts have kind of been discovered that maybe
Hmm.
people didn't know was a big deal.
Yep.
But yeah, that is the end of part one
Yeah.
for
So
Trust Me. The next one is the storage containers. It's so amazing.
I keep you waiting for another couple weeks. You have to deal with us first, and then you'll get us.
So don't forget, you guys, that the link to register for the Pam Weeks lecture on April 12th will be down in the description. Don't wait till the last minute for that. We need to make sure that everyone gets to attend. And also, there will be a recording of that available for 7 days after the fact. There's more
Mhm.
information in the registration link
Yep.
about details and things. So like make sure that you look at that and you read that. The link for Chester County will be in the description. By this point, our April calendar will be officially like out in the world of social media and things like
Yep.
that. So you can keep track of what Jill and Steph are doing out in the world because it's a lot.
And we're a lot. Sometimes they see us coming.
It's true. I'm sure there'll be reports of like, oh, did you hear those guys came to the IQM? We were so happy when they left.
We heard about them like gasping at the Chester County Historical.
I don't think I have any video of us going, like
You do have video of me losing my mind over a dollhouse, but
do
was it
I?
was it Chester County's where the dollhouse
Yeah,
is,
that was a
isn't it?
doll.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I think that's gonna do it for this particular video until the next one or the next live stream. See you then.
Now you never know when we're gonna pop up and from where. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Bye.